So, a few days ago, I was on the train and I was on a seat that's not reserved because when it's a reservation, you usually see it like by the window or something, it's written. This seat is not reserved, and I've been sitting here for a good 40 minutes. Now, after around 40 minutes, an old man comes and he just starts like buzzing around me, and it's very obvious that he is not moving on from my place, and he is not taking any of the other empty seats around us. He's just like coming and he's like moving around me, and it almost seemed to me like he is expecting that since he showed up, I should get up and I should offer him the seat. And this is not an old, very old man. This is like somewhere like late 50s or something. And he was just towering around me. And he said to me, after like 2 3 minutes, he came and he said, This is my seat. And I was like, I'm sorry, this is not a reserved place. And all the other places are empty, so you can sit anywhere. And then I was like, then he's like, no, 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 this is my seat. I have a reservation. And I said, can you show me the ticket? Because it should say on the window that it's reserved. And when it says that, I don't take that place. So it's not saying that it's reserved. He had no ticket. So then he says, well, I was sitting here before you came. Okay, but if you were sitting here before I came and then you left and went somewhere and this seat was empty and has been empty for the past 40 minutes at least, because I've been sitting here for 40 minutes, you don't just take a random seat on the train and then come back after 40 minutes and expect it to still be empty, especially if it's not your reservation. So I was like, please show me your ticket because this seat is not reserved. And if it's not reserved, I can sit here. And like I didn't have to get up and be like, no, 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 please take my seat. So what he did was he was not using a lot of the words. He was like, go sit there, that's empty. And I was like, why should I go sit there? This is not your seat. So then he moved his hand in front to grab my bag so that he could grab my bag from me and throw my bag on that other seat and force me to move. Now, because I was already prepared this time, because his body language was off, and I don't know if it is because I am Indian, I don't know if it's because I'm a woman, I don't know if it's because both, I don't know if he was just a jerk. But as soon as his hand came near my bag, I pulled my bag towards me and I pushed his hand away immediately and I switched to English and I said, don't you fucking touch my bag. And then within the next 2 seconds, my pepper spray was out of my purse. And it was in one hand, I had a pepper spray, and in another hand, I had my bag. And then I was talking to him, I was like, how dare you touch my fucking bag? Now a few strangers, like a couple was sitting there and they tried to intervene and they were like, hey, it's all right, just come sit by our side. And then I was like, he's going to do that to other women too if I don't like address it. And then that lady from those couple, she started fighting for me, and she was like, you know what, if you prefer a certain seat, you're supposed to talk respectfully to people and maybe they will oblige. You don't go to random women as a fully grown man and start pulling their bags and asking them to get up. And he started also fighting with her. Anyways, this fiasco was over. But one thing that surprised me that day was the quickness of my reaction, because that was not the first time in my life when I have encountered aggression and a threat of violence from a man in a public space. I have seen it in from men I know and men I don't know multiple times. But this time I was so much more aware and I was so much more perceptive, and there was almost a kind of readiness in my body. Instead of feeling like, oh my god, please don't be a jerk, oh my god, what am I going to do if he's a jerk, oh my god, maybe I should just get up and go away. Instead of that, my attitude was like, if he tries to cross his line, I have options. I am either going to use my pepper spray if he tries to touch me. I am going to make a noise and I am going to make it incredibly uncomfortable for him, or I am going to call the cops. This was like a list of possibilities. There was a readiness in my body language to fight if fighting were to be necessary, right? This surprised me because I am 30. So, this readiness in my body has come at this age, but ever since I started going out, especially when school ended and as an individual I started living outside, I have multiple instances of men being aggressive, threatening, or violent, as does any other woman. As does any other woman. And I remember for the first few years, even though it happens so often, your reaction is either complete shock and you freeze. Like, how do I respond to that? Like being touched in public, especially a man coming to you and trying to grab onto your clothes. It's so shocking. Either my reaction used to be I am extremely shocked and then I start crying, or if it's coming from a man who you know, for example, a man you've been dating for 6 months and he has never shown any violence before, your reaction is absolute shock. Like you're absolutely shocked and you don't register because you cannot consolidate these two. Like this man that I have seen in my classroom or I have seen elsewhere, and he's so well behaved, and suddenly 6 months into dating, he's trying to threaten me with violence. The shock is what makes you freeze. And this time, there was this kind of a mental preparedness. This happens. So it's not going to shock me. Now, when this happens, I'm going to find out the best way to deal with it. It surprised me so much, and it made me sad that it took me 30 years of age to get into this zone, that if you're stepping out in public, especially if you're stepping out as a woman, you have to be aware and you cannot freeze in when faced with violence or aggression from a man. Your mind should keep moving and you have to know what to do, and you have to do it confidently if you have done nothing wrong. When I was in the US, I had heard of this concept called the talk. Like, this is something that an African American or a black parent would do with their child. When the child reaches a certain age, the parents have a talk with the child. This talk is basically in order to educate them and to make them aware that the world outside does not perceive them the same way as it perceives a white child, maybe, or it perceives a child of some other race, and this perception is going to stay with them even as they grow up. Like, they have to be made aware that the world doesn't perceive them the way they think it might perceive them, so that they are not walking around in the world as clueless prey animals, just to be preyed upon, just to be bullied, or just to be mishandled by the cops. So there is this talk that they have, that listen, you need to be aware, even though you're a child and we know that this is new for you, but you have to be aware that there is a certain way that the world looks at you and will keep looking at you. And that way is not just something harmless, it has real world repercussions. So we want you to be aware of that, and we want you to live in a way that you can protect yourself while you keep your head held high without compromising on your self esteem, without compromising on your self respect, you can still live in this world with a degree of protection. And for that, it's necessary. And I think that that doesn't mean that you support how the world looks at a black child. That just means that you want your child to live, you want your child to be safe. And as I grow up, it just feels so bizarre to me that I have never had, and no woman that I know has ever had this kind of a talk with her parents. The talk that we received mostly was be good, be kind, otherwise nobody will marry you, don't fight too much, don't do this, just be, don't wear this kinds of clothes, don't use this kind of language. It's always that. And that is not what they need. That is not what women need. Women need a completely different kind of a talk. We need, if you have a girl child and you love your girl child, you love your child, you should make them aware that when they go out in the world, it is almost impossible. It is impossible for a woman to go through her life without having multiple instances of aggression, a threat of violence, or actual violence at the hand of a man. Especially that increases if you are a woman going out, working, traveling. But even without that, your own husband can be violent to you. In fact, I would say the slightly less traumatic ones are the ones that come from random men. But violence can come from men you know, from men you have known for years, from that guy who you have been dating for 6 months or 8 months, and he was very kind throughout these 6 or 8 months. The way that men are raised in our world, even the good ones, even the good ones are going to try to test how far they can take it with you. But I am talking about the good ones, the normal ones, the average ones. If they know that they can get away with violence, they can get away with bullying, they will. If they understand that they can get away with coercion, they will. So if you do love your child and if your child is a girl, why will you not prepare them? Why will you not teach them how to spot these things and how to fight back? You understand, a lot of the times we talk about intimate partner violence, and a lot of women report that they have experienced violence, both sexual and otherwise, from men who they were dating and or they were married to. One common thread that I found is when you start looking at someone with a certain level of trust, it it is so ingrained in you that this is the good guy, this is not like the other guys, this is not like the guy that I should be scared of or I should be cautious around. Now that guy can like do certain, he can cross certain boundaries, and you will be so in disbelief that how can this happen. And while you are still processing your disbelief, the guy will do whatever he wants to do and get away with it. Even today, fawning, to fawn over someone, is still the most common reaction in women when they are in a situation where they are faced with violence. And I was so surprised in this train incident because there was not a single cell in my body that was fawning. I was just asking for the ticket, and then I was like, don't you fucking touch my bag. And you guys have to understand, as a woman, this is new. I have been so used to just shutting up and not escalating things or just suddenly start crying or just sit there in a shock or disbelief. This was an entirely new discovery to me, and I felt like this discovery should not take 30 or 35 years of your life. This should be given to you from the beginning. The beginning will be you mentally prepare your women, mentally prepare them to not be shocked when they are faced with aggression. That doesn't mean that you teach them to expect aggression. No, you teach them that yes, it most likely will happen to you, but all you have to do is you have to know how to act swiftly. If you freeze and you start panicking and you don't know what the fuck to do, it's not going to help you. And it will create trauma. Helplessness creates trauma. So, are we teaching women also mentally? Every place I go, it's like everything I listen to, make women financially independent, make them financially independent. Okay, but this is just as important. If a person is used to facing aggression and being helpless in the face of that aggression, that helplessness kills your self esteem. Over time, trauma, what happened is traumatic, but a much larger part of the trauma is how helpless you became. And if your mind is trained in a way that it is alert during the time when you are facing aggression, you're always scanning and you're always ready with responses. This is my option, this is my option, this is my option, this is my option. I don't have to let this person bully me. You will come out of that experience feeling good, and nobody taught me this. If somebody is trying to bully you, and if you are able to stand up to the bully in different ways, standing up can mean different things. You always get out of that situation feeling good. If somebody is bullying you and you start crying, you start acting like Cinderella, you start acting like this cute little helpless thing, you are not going to get out of that situation feeling good. So mentally you educate women on how aggression can escalate, especially in relation with men to men, especially in relation of intimate relationships, because that is when we let our guard down the most. But also outside, also you teach them these are the ways in which you can respond, and it's never your fault. You always see these young kids on the trains and stuff in India, some leech uncle is trying to feel them up and touch them, and they are so scared. They don't move. They let that uncle's hand move all over their bodies. They don't move because they are so scared. Because they think that if they go and tell their parents are going to blame them. That is how mentally crippled we have made our girls. And then also, when they fight back with you, when they think that you are being unfair to them as a parent, you appreciate them fighting back, because that is the attitude that they are going to take in the world outside. How you let them conduct themselves is how they are going to learn to conduct themselves outside. If you tell them that their boundaries are important and are to be withheld, that is what also they are going to expect from people outside. And if you teach them that they are supposed to act like your slaves, then they are going to also not understand that some guy expecting them to act like a slave is not okay. It's a massive red flag. So, number one step is mentally prepare them, mentally give them confidence and educate them that you will come across something of this sort. We hope that you don't come across something major, but it is inescapable. You cannot escape that kind of an experience if you're going to be a woman, if you're going to go out every day, going to do something. That's number one. Number two is physically prepare them. Physically prepare them. You know, there is a preparation at the level of the body, which is why martial arts or some kind of a training is important. Because only for me to say, okay, I have to fight back, I have to fight back, I have to fight back, it's like watching someone else solve a maths problem. And our teachers used to say when we were children, when you watch someone else do it, you feel like you learned, but you haven't learned. When you yourself sit down to solve that problem, you learn and it becomes a part of your memory. Similarly, in your body, you have to have a little bit memory. I'm not saying that it's a cure for every situation. Neither am I saying that you have to be a jiu-jitsu black belt or karate black belt. Basic things. Carry a pepper spray also, other than a few moves of some kind of a martial arts, or how to pull someone's hand away if someone is trying to put their hand on your body. Those very basic things. But other than that, carry a pepper spray when and where you can. If you're in a dark place, be extra vigilant and carry your key in the middle of your hand. If you feel threatened, always remember, have the number of the local police station on speed dial. Always remember, these are the things that you should always remember. Because this time when it happened, like when that man was trying to be aggressive to me, I had a series of steps. Like step 1, I ask him to back off. Step 2, I take out my pepper spray and ask him to back off. Step 3, I pepper spray him. Step 4, I then dial the cops, the police station number. When your body is prepared in this way, it's like dancing, and that preparation shows. I was participating in a jiu-jitsu workshop years ago, and the instructor said you don't learn fighting so that you can fight every person who comes in your way. You learn fighting so that you can avoid situations where you need to fight, because when you understand that you are not absolutely helpless, and you understand that you have at least 2 3 options to respond if somebody were to get aggressive. It shows in your body. You move differently. You move more confidently. And just the fact that you are moving more confidently, it deters predators. Most people who are predatory in nature, they don't want to mess with someone who looks like that person will fight back. And I'm very sorry to say, this applies to the men outside, but it also applies to your own boyfriends. It also applies to your husbands. It applies to most men in most intimate relationships. I don't think there is a culture of just not bullying someone because you're a good person, or because weak people bully other people. You kind of always have to show them that you are going to take a stand for yourself. It's a very sorry realization, but it is a realization which I feel I have, is that they need a certain amount of fear to deter them from mistreating you. Obviously, I hope not all men, I don't think it's all men, but a vast majority of them, even when they are good to you in the first few months of a relationship, or even the first few years, you cannot let them feel that they can cross any of your boundary and you will be okay with it. Uh, the third thing is a few things that you should discuss with your. There's a series on Netflix. It's called Working Moms. I think it's a Canadian series. It's really cool if you watch it. But it's basically a story of these three moms, and they each have their own thing going. One of the moms, she's a therapist, and she is basically training her young girl, 6 7 year old girl, to shout if she feels like she is in any situation where she might be assaulted, to never say rape, but to say fire. Fire, fire, fire. Because if you say fire, people will come. If you say the R word, they will not come. It is it an uncomfortable conversation to have with your child? Obviously. But having a child itself is extremely uncomfortable. Why will you have a child into this world and then not give them any education about this world? And if you're a woman, you don't get through life without multiple episodes of possible aggression or actual aggression and violence from a man. You just don't get through life like that. So, if you know that this is the kind of a world where you have chosen to have a child, why will you not educate that child so that she can, or he can, live with their head held high, and they don't have to experience abuse multiple times to develop these skills by a certain age? The way you take in Indian households, our grades are taken very seriously. Why don't you take this seriously too? It feels like such a betrayal that you are born into this world where all women know and all men know also what men do to women, and yet nobody teaches you. It's almost like either they don't want to face it, or they are just hoping that you turn out to be an exception, or they are hoping that if they control you well enough, nothing will happen to you. If you are dating someone, if you have a new relationship and that guy starts coercing you to have sex, what do? If that guy starts pitting sex against you, like, oh, I didn't pick up your call, but also you didn't have sex with me, so we both have to. If this is coercion, this is psychological coercion, which is it happens a lot. If you go with a guy in a room, and that guy, because you trust him, he's your boyfriend, let's say you guys are dating, and suddenly he shuts the door and he starts getting handsy with you, and he refuses to open the door and refuses to stop when you ask him to stop, what do? I want to say to all parents, especially parents who want to have children, girl childs, female children, have these conversations with your girls. Don't let them wait for this to happen to them, for them to discover that such things exist. Do not let them do that. That is the most unfortunate way to discover. Anyways, that's the most unfortunate way for them to discover that abuse isn't just what they see happening in television, where a man is beating the crap out of you, and the line between this and that is so clear. Like, if a man is established as a good character in the first half, he's always going to be a good character. Just don't do that. If you love your children, why will you not educate them about the world? Why will you not teach them to fight? If you love your children, and if you really insist upon having children into this world where you know what happens in this world, why will you not teach your children this? It just baffles me. It baffles me the kind of shit that they teach you in school, some of which is absolutely of no value. And this thing is actually of value, but nobody cares. I think as a society, we are so desensitized to men being aggressive and violent and selfish that we don't care anymore. But if you do have a girl child, you have to sit with her and you have to have all these conversations. You have to tell her that nobody gets to shame her for who she is, for the sex that she has had or she hasn't had, for her body, for her face, for her breasts, for her hips. Nobody gets to shame her. You have to teach her that she should not sit on tables where she senses disrespect. We are a generation of women who are so used to questioning our own selves and our own judgment. When somebody misbehaves, we are questioning, am I overthinking? Am I overthinking? How foolish and how stupid. And you think that if you make women so naive and so stupid and so clueless, this bunch of extremely naive and stupid and clueless people will prove to be excellent mothers to to your children. This is so stupid. You have to instill in your children, in your girls, to always trust their instinct. On a table when you sense disrespect, in a relationship when you sense disrespect, in a friendship when you sense disrespect, don't sit there questioning yourself. Get up and walk out. Nobody ever taught me this. And I still read about women saying, oh, my boyfriend just said I am just preparing him for the next girl. I feel so sad. Am I overthinking? Shut up. Please. 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 This recent article I read about New York Times, are women ruining the workplace? Can conservative feminism fix it? What the fuck is conservative feminism? So, as long as women ask you to not rape and kill them, you're kinda sorta on board. But as soon as women say no, just not raping and killing us is not enough. The world is designed for you, it's not designed for us. We are not represented. And as 50% of the population, we deserve to be represented. We deserve to be treated with love and respect and dignity. That is too much. That ruins the societal structure. If you have a girl child, talk to her. Have the talk with her. Don't wait for your girls to go out into the world and to be abused endlessly in multiple ways to then discover the most efficient ways of responding to that abuse. And if you have a boy, also have the talk with him. Teach him what you see men do and how he can make it better. Anyways, thank you.